Very good evening, Sapna and everyone. Very good evening, students. Please confirm about the voice and the video, and I'll start the session then. Any volunteer? Very good evening, Ritu. Okay. Thank you, Sapna, for confirming that. And on that note, let's start this session. So, first of all, I welcome each one of you to my YouTube session on the Indian Contract Act 1872. This is our third class on this subject. So let's start with my brief introduction first. My name is Sandeep Khatri. I have done my law from University of Mumbai and my LLM from Jindal Global Law School. By profession, I'm a teacher. I'm teaching law for more than 5 years now. My areas of specializations are the constitutional law, criminal law, commercial law, family law, and law of torts. Here is the link of my profile on Unacademy, so please do follow that to get all the updates about my special classes and my plus courses. I have also shared the link of my Telegram channel where you can connect with me and ask your questions. At last, I have mentioned my code that is KHATRILIVE, which you can use to get free access of all the special classes available on Unacademy app and also to get 10% discount for your plus courses. So this was about me. Now I request everyone, please be attentive, and this is going to be an interactive session. So the moment you feel you are not clear with anything, you can write your questions in the comments. Very good evening, everyone. Amit, very good evening. So let's start this session, students. I hope everyone is clear till section number 9, which we have already covered. Today, what we are going to do in our class, first I'm going to explain you section number 10 and all the associated other sections, which is related to your coercion, free consent, minor, unsound mind, fraud, then misrepresentation, and one of the most important, that is mistake as well, and the role of section 19 and 19A. So we'll try to cover all these sections. But before starting section number 10, which is again one of the most important section, if you have any questions in your mind, you may ask in the comments. And if not, then just quickly give me a thumbs up. I'll straight away start with section number 10. Very good evening, Kajal, and everyone, those of you who have just joined. Okay, I've got all the thumbs ups, so it means no questions at all. So on that note, let's start with section number 10. Students, as you can see, these three golden formulas is basically what your contract is. If you want to reach to this contract, a valid contract, the whole story starts with proposal. After that, acceptance, and it will become promise. Okay, proposal, the term has been defined in section number 2A. Acceptance and promise, both these terms has been defined under section 2B. Now then comes the role of consideration, that is 2D, and it will become agreement as per to section number 2E. And after that, this is the topic of our class, students: enforceable by law. Now, what do we mean by this term, enforceable by law? Because only if there is an agreement which is enforceable by law, that will lead to a valid contract. And the term contract has been defined under section 2H, and this term enforceable by law, you can say agreement plus section number 10 as well, that equals to contract. Now let's go into the details of section number 10. With the help of this chart, so section number 10. It says what agreements are contracts. Now only those agreements which will fulfill all these conditions that has been mentioned in section number 10 will lead to a valid contract. Now what are these conditions? All agreements are contract if they are made by the free consent. First point to remember, students, that is free consent. Now, whosoever is the promiser, whosoever is the promisee, if they have entered into a contract with free consent, then only that is enforceable by law. Now, what is consent? What is free consent? For that, you have to go through with section number 13, read with section number 14. What are the other conditions? So let's first finalize this whole chart. After free consent, the another one is competent, which means the parties must be competent. Competent to contract. And when we say competency, we basically means the party must not be minor, so which means major, and sound mind. I'm writing in short, that is SM, sound mind. What are the other ones? That is lawful consideration. Whatever the consideration that has been involved as per to section 2D, that must be lawful. Then lawful object. We'll go into the details of all these terms one by one. What else? And not hereby expressly declared void. Okay. Now let's go into the details of these one by one. So first one is free consent. The parties must have their free consent. Now what is consent? There is a famous maxim, students, that is consensus ad idem. Okay, let me go through with the comments as well, side by side, if there are any other questions. Okay. Very good evening, everyone. Those of you who have just joined, I have just started with section number 10 today. Okay. Parminder, answer to your question, when it comes to section number 9, we are basically talking about the concept of promises, and it applies to both, okay? Agreement or contract, okay? That can be oral as well, express as well, and implied as well. Now, coming back to section number 10. So, when we say section number 10, if all these conditions has been fulfilled, free consent, parties are competent, lawful consideration, lawful object, not hereby declared void, that will be treated as a valid contract. Now, what are these? Free consent. So, when we say free consent, we first go to section number 13, read with section number 14. Now, what is section number 13? 13 says, define this term consent. What is consent? So, there's a famous maxim which I was talking about, consensus ad idem, which means meeting of minds. Okay, meeting of minds on the same things. For example, if Mr. A wants to sell his car to Mr. B, now the same car Mr. B also wanted, Mr. A wants to sell this, both agreed on the same thing in the same sense, which is Mr. A wants to sell this car in 20 lakh rupees, Mr. B wants to buy this car in 20 lakh rupees. So this is what is free consent. Okay, so the term consent. Now, how we can say that there is free consent? So there are some essentials of free consent as well, which means there should not be any coercion. There should not be any undue influence. There should not be any fraud involved in it. There should not be any misrepresentation that should not be involved in it. So if all these are there, then we can say that it is a free consent. Now let's understand this concept with a simple example. If Mr. A wants to buy house of Mr. B in 20 lakh rupees, but Mr. B is not interested. And what if Mr. A take a gun out, put that gun on the head of Mr. B and is like, sign the papers or I'll shoot you. Now, what options Mr. B has? He will sign the papers. But if he's entering into that contract, whether that will be treated as a valid contract? The answer is no. Why no? Why that is not enforceable by law? Reason? Because there is no free consent involved. Why there is no free consent? Because that is the example of coercion. And if that is the case of coercion, it will be treated as per to section number 19, that will be treated as a voidable contract. Voidable contract at the option of Mr. B. Now, Mr. B can make it as a valid contract as well and make it as a void agreement as well. So, this is one of the example of free consent which has coercion involved. Any questions till now? After that, I will move further. Yes, please. Done? Okay, no questions? Okay, I'm moving further. Now, one is coercion. Now, one more question which you usually get in your exam. What is if there is threat of suicide? Which means if Mr. B is saying if you are not going to sell your house to me, I will commit suicide. And because of that fear, one person enters into the contract. So coercion is an example, or sorry, uh, attempt to commit suicide, threat to suicide is for coercion or for undue influence. Yes, anyone who likes to answer. There's a famous case as well on this. Anyone who likes to answer. Threat to suicide is an example of coercion or undue influence. Anyone who likes to answer? Very good evening, Shalini. Okay. I hope Sapna is about to write coercion. उन्होंने conversion लिख दिया. Yes, this is an example of coercion, students, and this is from again a famous case law, Chikam Amiraju versus Chikam Sheshamma. Okay, 1912. So this is again, so threat to suicide is a case of that will amounts to coercion. Okay, and if there is coercion, there is no free consent, and if there is no free consent, then it will not be treated as a valid contract. Okay. Now coming to the next one. What if there is undue influence that has been involved? Undue influence. So there are some relationships, there are some fictitious relationship where undue influence may take place. And if that is the case of undue influence, that will be again treated as that it is no free consent. And if it is no free consent, as per to section 19A, the party who has been influenced, then that party has the option to make that contract, treat that contract as a voidable contract, which means that party can make it as a valid as well as void agreement. Next one is fraud. What if fraud has been involved? Then in that case, it is again no free consent, and it will be treated as a voidable contract as per to section number 19. And the last one is misrepresentation. If that is the case of misrepresentation, which means, and there's a difference between misrepresentation and fraud, and the major difference is of intention. Okay, in fraud, the person has the intention to make that fraud, but when it comes to misrepresentation, even that person has no idea about the true facts. So that is the case of misrepresentation. And even if it is the case of misrepresentation, this will not be treated as a free consent, and it will be treated as voidable contract against the party to whom misrepresentation has been made, and that party has an option of voidable contract as per to section number 19. So these are some points that all covered under free consent only. Section 13 again define the term consent. Section 14 deals with free consent. 15 coercion. 16 undue influence. 17 is your fraud. 18 is your misrepresentation. 19 is your where contract is voidable. In voidable contract in the options of coercion, fraud, and misrepresentation, and 19A is for your this one, undue influence. Now moving to the next point, that is competent. The parties must be competent, which means the parties must be major and sound mind. For this, you can read the section numbers, section number 11 and section number 12. Now I have one question for everyone. Let's see how many of you can answer this. Student, the question is, when one party enters into the contract with the minor, what is going to be the status of that contract? Yes, please. Now let's see how many of you can answer. Yes, students. If there is a contract with minor, what is going to be the status of that contract? Waiting for your answer in the comments. Everyone is writing void. Now anyone, please do answer this where it is written that it will be treated as void. where it is written that it will be treated as void ab initio, where it is written. Amit, Sapna, Kajal, Shalini, Parminder, Ritu. Everyone has answered void or void ab initio. Okay. So my cross question to each one of you, where it has been written that it will be treated as void. Yes, please. Waiting for your answer. There is no section, students. There is no section. Your answer, section 11. No. Section 11 is who are competent to contract. Parminder, section 11. Section 11. Now, please do understand this question first. Now I am answering. Parminder said कि because of section number 11. Parminder, when we read section 11, it just tells us who are competent to contract. It is not telling us that the status is going to be void or void ab initio. Okay. Now coming to Mr. M.R. Soda. M.R. Soda. वो कह रहे हैं मोहिरी बीबी वर्सेस धर्मोदास घोष. So my cross question to you is why not in the Bayer Act? सेक्शन 19 में भी तो मेंशन किया है ना हमने, सेक्शन 19A में भी मेंशन किया है, सेक्शन 20 में भी मेंशन किया है, 21 में भी मेंशन किया है, 22 में भी मेंशन किया है. देन व्हाई नॉट माइनर? व्हाई नॉट अबाउट सेक्शन नंबर मतलब जो हमने 11 में और 12 में मेंशन क्यों नहीं किया है? यस, एनीवन हु लाइक्स टू आंसर दिस. एंड सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन विद अनसाउंड माइंड एज वेल. 12 में भी आंसर कहीं पे भी नहीं लिखा हुआ है वाइड, बट स्टिल हमारा आंसर होता है वाइड. Come on. I hope that this is not the first time you are thinking about this. Section 10 itself says party must be competent. Amit, section 10 says कि party competent होंगी. ठीक है, party must be competent. लेकिन ये कहां पे लिखा है कि void होगा status. और ये Bayer Act में कहीं पर भी नहीं लिखा है. Now, let me tell you the exact reasons. शालिनी वाइड होगा लेकिन लिखा कहां पर हुआ है? हाउ कैन यू से दैट? दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. ओके, नाउ आई एम आंसरिंग इट. एवरीवन प्लीज बी अटेंटिव. सी स्टूडेंट्स, व्हेन देयर इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विद माइनर, द आंसर इज इट इज नॉट ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी वॉइड, एंड दैट इज व्हाई दैट इज समथिंग विच इज इंटेंशनल. ये एक्सीडेंटल नहीं है कि ये मिस कर दिया इन्होंने रिटर्न डाउन करना. नो, दिस इज इंटेंशनल. There was an intention of the legislature कि वो रिटर्न डाउन नहीं करेंगे यहाँ पे. अब रिटर्न डाउन क्यों नहीं करेंगे? बिकॉज इफ अगर कोई प्रोविजन होता है, इफ देयर इज एनी प्रोविजन विच हैज रिटन इट डाउन कि इफ देयर इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विद माइनर दैट विल बिकम वाइड, दैट वुड हैव बिकम इनजस्टिस विद द माइनर. व्हाई? लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल. लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल हियर. इफ सपोज देयर इज अ बर्थडे ऑफ 10-year-old boy and his grandfather gifted him a house. So whether this will be treated as a contract or not, whether he will get the property or not, the answer is yes, which means there are exceptions. There are exceptions when there is going to be a contract with the minor, and that is for the benefit of the minor only, and then that will be treated as a valid contract. This is the reason they have not specifically written it down that a contract with minor is void. We always say the contract with minor is void as per to Mohiri Bibi, because in that particular case, if the court finds out, yes, that some minor has been exploited, in that scenario, the court will be treated as a void ab initio. But if it is in the benefit of the minor itself, then in that case, it will be treated as a valid contract. And this is the reasoning behind the whole concept. I hope everyone is clear with this. Yes, anyone who is still not clear with this, or can I move to the next one? Done? Clear? And same concept with unsound mind as well, because unsound mind may be sound mind because of some period of time, and if in that window, if that person enters into the end contract, that will be treated as a valid contract, and if not, then it will be treated as a void. So this is your section number 11 and 12. Chaliye. Thank you very much for all the thumbs ups, which means everyone is clear with this now. So we can move to the next topic now. Now the next one is, students, what about consideration and object? The consideration and the object must be lawful or not. So what if there is a contract of killing someone, right? The object is to kill someone. So that is something which is not lawful, right? You are committing an offense. So that is something which is not enforceable by law. Again, something lawful consideration. There is a difference between both these terms, students. If there is a contract to kill someone, the object is not lawful. So that will not be enforceable by law. Similarly, when we say lawful consideration, when I use this term lawful consideration, it means that the consideration, whatever you are getting as per to section 2D, consideration means something in return. Now, what is that something? Something means something which has some value in the eyes of the law. Fine. So whatever you are getting in consideration, that should also be lawful. Okay, if that is not lawful, that will not be a contract which is enforceable by law. And coming to the last point, after that I will conclude the whole concept. Not hereby declared void, which means starting from section number 24 till section number 30. What is one thing that is common in all these sections, section 24 till section 30? They all are talking about void agreements, which means that if in this act itself, if there is any provision which talks about a void agreement, that cannot be enforceable by law. Now, from the starting of this topic, when I started with section number 10, till this moment, I have passed this term ki section 24 till section 30. I'm using this term again and again. Enforceable by law, enforceable by law, enforceable by law. What does this term exactly means? Now, let's understand this concept with the help of this simple example. Let's take an example. There are two parties, Mr. A, Mr. B. Fine. And there is a contract between them. There is a contract between Mr. A and Mr. B. Now, students, always do remember, if this contract is a valid contract, if it's a valid contract. Now, which contract is a valid contract? Valid contract here means which has a valid agreement plus section number 10, all the conditions has been fulfilled, that will be equals to a valid contract, which means now it is enforceable by law. Now, what is enforceable by law? Whatever this contract is, this is going to create some rights and some duties, right? Some rights of Mr. A, some rights of Mr. B, some duties of Mr. A, some duties of Mr. B, right? This is basically a simple example of contract. Now, in that scenario, if Mr. A says, I'm not going to perform my promise, which means Mr. A is committing breach of contract, right? Now, if Mr. A is committing breach of contract, in that scenario, what Mr. B can do? Now, Mr. B will file a suit. Why? Because this is a kind of a valid contract which is enforceable by law. And if he is not performing his promise, that will be treated as a breach of contract and Mr. B will get damages. Now, let's twist this one. What if this is a void agreement? This is a void agreement. In the case of void agreement, can Mr. B file a suit on Mr. A? The answer is no. Even if he filed a suit, Mr. B will not succeed in getting damages. Why? Because it is void agreement, and void agreement is one which is not enforceable by law. So the term enforceable by law means the other party can move to the court, file a suit and get damages. But if it is not enforceable by law, you will not get the damages. And there are no rights and duties that has been generated because of that. I hope everyone is clear with this one. Any questions till now? After that, I'll move further. And if it's all clear, quickly give me a thumbs up. I'll move to the next topic. Amit, you are asking, sir, consideration is important if someone wants to give it freely. Then? Okay, you are saying कि अगर कोई free देता है तो gift, yes, gift भी तो आपका एक तरह से conclude होगा ना. You can give it something for free as well. Donations, आप donations दे सकते हो या नहीं दे सकते हो? बिल्कुल दे सकते हो. But there is a concept as well related to that. I'll go into the detail at the time of consideration. जब section 25 करेंगे अमित, I'll go into the details of that. कि अगर आपने if one party has promised to give donation of 10 lakh rupees और next day उसको 10 करोड़ का लॉस हो जाए तो अब वो नहीं दे रहा डोनेशन, तो क्या वो जो फर्स्ट पार्टी है उससे डोनेशन ले सकती है या नहीं ले सकती है? So that we will cover at the time of section number 25. परमिंदर सेक्शन 25 सेक्शन हाँ ठीक है, करेक्ट है. डन. चलिए, नाउ मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट वन. नाउ whatever we have done in this class, I can conclude that with the help of a simple chart. So let's conclude that. Here write the section number. Okay. So if there is here write the concept and here write the result. Section number 10, which means if the concept is related to minor. Section number 11, if it is related with unsound mind. Section number 11 and section number 12, right? 11, section number 12, and then section number 15 if there has been coercion involved. You will get these questions in your PT examination. Okay. Section number 16, undue influence. Section number 17, that is fraud. Section number 18, that is misrepresentation. Now what is going to be the result if that is the case of minor? In general cases, that will be treated as void ab initio. The reasoning I have already given to you. When it comes to unsound mind, this is again considered with void. Exceptional circumstances, if in that window that person is sound mind, obviously that will be treated as a valid contract. If this is a case of coercion, the result is this will be treated as voidable. And when I say voidable contract, I hope everyone do understand the meaning of that term. Voidable. Voidable means void or valid at the option of one party. Which party? Against whom coercion has taken place. Against whom coercion has taken place. And where it is written, it is voidable. This is written under section number 19. Similarly, when we say undue influence, the status is going to be voidable. But this is not under section 19. This is under section 19A. Continuing. When it is a case of fraud, this will be again treated as voidable. Misrepresentation, voidable. This both has because of section number 19. Similarly, in this as well, section number 19. So this is the conclusion of whatever we have discussed. And how you will get the questions in your exams? Either they will ask this status, whether it is voidable or void, and what section they are, this thing has mentioned. Any questions from this chapter? Very good evening, Padma, and everyone, those of you who have just joined. I hope everyone has already made this chart. Can I move further now? And once I'm done with all the explanations, I do have some MCQ questions as well based on this chart and on this complete chapter. Okay, I'm explaining the chart again. See, chart is basically if there is section number 11, which deals with minor, right? If there is a contract with minor, what is the general rule? That will be treated as wide ab initio. There are exceptions, but in general, it will be treated as wide ab initio. Why? Because of your Mohiri BB case. Then section number 12, if it is a case of unsound mind, what is going to be the result? If you are going to enter into a contract with a unsound mind person, then this will be treated as, okay, write down the complete one. Wide what? Wide agreement. This will be treated as wide agreement. Similarly, when it comes to section number 15, it talks about coercion. So if there is coercion has been involved in a contract, that will be treated as voidable. Voidable at the option of which party? Voidable at the option of party against whom coercion has taken place. Undue influence, voidable at the option of that party against whom that party who has been influenced. Fraud, voidable at the option of that party against whom fraud has taken place. Misrepresentation, voidable at the option of that party against whom misrepresentation has been made. And this is, again, write down the complete one, students. Voidable what? In all these cases, this is voidable contract. Voidable contract. Voidable contract. Voidable contract. And where it is written, section 19 and 19A. 19A for undue influence, for coercion, fraud and misrepresentation, section number 19 only. Okay. I hope everyone is clear with this one. Any questions? Okay, I've got the thumbs up, so I can move to the next part now. The next part is related to the concept of mistake. Now, what is mistake? See, when we say mistake, we can divide this mistake into two parts. Mistake of law and mistake of fact. When we say mistake of fact, this can be further divided into two parts. Mistake by one party. And when we say mistake of fact, mistake of one of the essential fact that is related to contract. One party and here both parties. Mistake किससे हुई है? दोनों पार्टी से, यहाँ पे सिर्फ one party से. When we say law, we can divide this into Indian law and foreign law. Now, when we say mistake, and mistake is of, okay, let's start with this one first. If the mistake is of fact, okay, and if the mistake is of only one party, not for both, what is going to be the status? Anyone who likes to answer this in the comments? Yes, please. Anyone who likes to answer this? If there is mistake of fact and mistake of fact which is essential to the contract, but the mistake is of only one party, then what is going to be the status of that contract? Void, valid, voidable. What do you think? Voidable. Are you sure, Sapna? Okay, Amit and Kajal has answered valid, Parminder voidable. Parminder and Sapna, I request both of you to please go through with section number 22. So the answer lies in section number 22, and section number 22 says not voidable. Not voidable. Not voidable. मतलब जो लिखा हुआ है section 22 में वो voidable नहीं लिखा हुआ है, वहां पे लिखा हुआ है not voidable, which means this will be treated as a valid contract. Now if I go with this, both, which means section 20 answers this. If there is a mistake of fact, which is essential to the contract, and the mistake is of both the parties who has been involved, then in that scenario, we will treat that as void agreement. Okay, I hope everyone is clear with this part. Now, moving to this one. What if there is mistake of Indian law, if there is mistake of on the part of Indian law, whether by one party or by both the parties, this will be treated as a valid contract. Why? Because ignorance of law is not an excuse. And when I use this maxim, ignorance of law, what kind of law? Indian law. What law you are studying right now? The Indian Contract Act. Fine. So if you are not aware with any of the provisions, then ignorance of law is not an excuse, and this is going to be treated as a valid contract. But if there is a mistake on law, that is foreign law, in that scenario, this is going to be treated as mistake of fact, which means if the mistake on foreign law is by one party, that will be treated as valid. If both, that will be treated as void agreement. And where this all has been written when it comes to related to your law point, so this is in your section number 21. So section 20, 21 and 22 deals with the concept of mistake in a valid contract. I hope everyone is clear with this chart, and if you have any questions, you may ask. Okay, I have got one question from Amit. He's asking about foreign law concept again. See, if it is a case of mistake, okay, I'm using the new color. If this is a case of mistake, and mistake of what? Law. What kind of law? Foreign law. In that scenario, that mistake of foreign law can be by one party or by both. यही हो सकता है. So in both situations, the answer will be as far as mistake of fact is concerned. So the one party के case में that will be treated as valid, and both parties के case में this will be treated as void agreement. Now let me tell you the logic as well which has been attached to this. See, when it comes to foreign law, fine, when it comes to foreign law, that is not law for us, that are facts for us, and that is why this concept of foreign law will be treated as same as mistake of fact. You are not supposed to know what is US law or UK law, fine, and that is why, but you must aware with Indian law, and that is why this foreign law will be treated as mistake of fact. I hope now it is clear, Amit. Done? And if it's all clear, so then please give me a thumbs up. I'll jump to the MCQ questions now, based on whatever I have explained to you. Done? Okay. So let's solve some MCQ based on all these explanations. So that was your basically students enforceable by law. Okay. Amit, in case of one party, that will be treated as valid, and the reason is again very simple. Because if there is only one party who is at the mistake, not both the parties, then whose mistake this is? If only one party is at the mistake, whose mistake it is? By that party only. So for his mistake, why should the other party should suffer? Why should the other party suffer? And that is the logic that as per to your section number 22, that will be treated as a valid contract, and that will not be treated as voidable one. Okay. So now here comes your questions. Be quick, students, while answering these questions. First, do write down the question number and then the answer. Here comes your first question. A contract with minor is Top 3 students to answer correctly: Kajal, Sapna, Amit. Top 3 students. MR Sodha, Parminder Kaur. Correct answer. Everyone's answer is correct, students. A contract with minor is a void ab initio. Sorry. Next one. A contract with unsound mind is a. What is going to be the status of a contract with unsound mind? And top 3 students to answer correctly. First one, Kajal, Sapna, and Parminder. MR Soda, correct answer. Amit, please do correct your answer. A contract with unsound mind is void. Okay. So answer is B. A contract vitiated by coercion is declared as dash by Contract Act. A contract vitiated by coercion is declared as dash by Contract Act. Amit, that is something which is in the exceptions. Okay? The question was about the general rule. Top 3 students to answer correctly: Sapna, Kajal, and Amit. Okay. Sankalp, correct answer. MR Soda, correct answer. That is C, which is voidable. So it is a voidable contract. As per to section number, write down the section number as well in the comments. Write down the section number as well. That is also, which is something important for your exams. Next, a contract vitiated by undue influence is declared as dash by the Contract Act. Yes, Sapna, correct answer. Section number 19. Section number 19 is the correct answer, students. Where it has been declared voidable. Okay. (15) is where coercion has been defined. Sapna, first one to answer correctly. MR Soda, second one to answer correctly. Amit, correct answer. And I guess everyone's answer is correct. Parminder, correct. Sapna. Kajal, this is section 19A. When it comes to undue influence, that there is a separate section for this. The answer is going to be voidable. Okay, that is the correct answer. But this is mentioned in 19A, not in 19. 19, that there is coercion, fraud, and misrepresentation. Next, a contract vitiated by fraud is declared as first one to answer correctly, Sapna. Okay, Sapna has mentioned the section number as well. Second one, MR Sodha. Third, Amit. And I guess everyone's answer is correct. Parminder, correct. Kajal, correct answer. That is voidable itself because of section number 19. Next. A contract vitiated by misrepresentation is declared as, and trust me students, you will get 1 to 2 questions from this class itself. आपके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट से 2 क्वेश्चंस तो यहीं से आएंगे. आपके कोई भी आप PYQ you can pick up and see. A contract vitiated by misrepresentation is declared as, first one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Kajal, Amit, MR, Parminder. Yes, the answer is correct, students. This is again voidable as per to your section number 19. A contract caused by mistake of Indian law. A contract caused by mistake of Indian law. First one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Amit and Parminder. MR Soda, everyone's answer is correct. If a contract is caused by mistake of Indian law, the answer is going to be valid. Why? Because ignorance of law is no excuse. Ignorance of fact may be excused. A contract caused by mistake of foreign law. First one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Kajal and Parminder. Okay. So, MR Soda and Amit, please do correct your answer. The question is a contract caused by mistake of foreign law. If there is mistake of foreign law, I've already told you with the help of chart, this will be treated as same effect as mistake of fact. Okay, you can read section 21 as well for this. Okay, please do refer section number 21. Moving to the next one. Amit, I have already explained, just give me a second. अगर वो chart अभी भी बना हुआ होगा. See, please have a look at this chart. When it comes to foreign law, if I'm using another color, if there is mistake of law and that mistake is of foreign law, तो that will be treated as same. ये देखिए same as mistake of fact की तरह treat होगा. जैसे mistake of fact को treat किया जाता है वैसे ही इसमें भी treat किया जाएगा. Done, Amit? कहां पे लिखा हुआ है जनरल रूल void है? Where it is written, Amit? Under which section? You can, if you can refer any section number or if you can refer any case law on this, where it is written, and I can tell you where this is written. This is not the general rule. All सब एक ही रूल है, इसमें कोई exceptions नहीं है. फॉरेन लॉ में एक ही रूल है, that is mentioned under section 22. वहां पे ये लिखा हुआ है सेम इफेक्ट, राइट? चलिए, कमिंग बैक टू द एमसीक्यूज नाउ. चलिए, ये भी अच्छा था, मैंने अभी वो चार्ट डिलीट नहीं किया था. नेक्स्ट, a contract caused by mistake of essential fact by one party. अमित, क्वेश्चन नंबर 8 में ये लिखा ही नहीं हुआ था कि मिस्टेक वन पार्टी की है या बोथ पार्टीज की है. वेयर इट वाज रिटन, वहां पे लिखा ही नहीं हुआ था. सो द बेस्ट सुटेबल आंसर फॉर दैट इज एज सेम एज द मिस्टेक ऑफ फैक्ट. Clear, Amit? If a contract caused by mistake of essential fact by one party, the correct answer is given by Sapna, Kajal, Amit, Parminder. Correct answer, students. The answer is C. That will be treated as valid only. Okay. Next one. A contract caused by mistake of essential fact by both parties. And the answer is, students, the correct answer is If mistake is by both the parties, the answer is going to be void agreement. Kajal, Sapna, Amit, Parminder, MR Soda, everyone's answer is correct. So now anything students which you are not clear with before concluding this class. And after that I'll make some important announcements as well related to my classes. Yes, any questions, anything you still feel you are not clear with from section number 10 till section number 23. Why not same effect as mistake of fact here? Amit, when both the parties are under mistake of fact, जब दोनों की ही गलती है, then only we will treat it that as a void agreement. Okay? अगर एक की गलती होती, we will treat that as a valid. It's okay, you don't need to be sorry. Okay. Then let's conclude this class, students. First of all, this is the link of my profile on Unacademy. So please do follow that to get all the updates about my special classes and my plus courses. This is the link of my Telegram channel where you can connect with me. This is my code KHATRILIVE. This is the schedule of my classes as of now. Tomorrow I'm going to take a test, students, from 10 to 11, current affairs test. And then after that, we will do a plus class on Muslim law. This will be started from 23rd of December. And the course is already live. Then there is a special classes going on. Today was the first revisional class on IPC. So you can attend this class as well. Then there is a plus course going on CRPC and YouTube sessions on Contract Act, which you are already attending. Fine. So let's crack PCS J with Unacademy, compete with thousands of aspirants and stand out from the crowd. You will get all the subjects here, students, all the major, minor, local laws, everything is available for you. These are some important special class features, interactive live classes, poll for learners. You can raise your hand and you can actually communicate with the educator. You will get the notification, so you will never miss a class. You will get the lecture notes and you can access them anytime, anywhere. These are the other features of the special classes, students. This is the pricing plan and the plus subscription. You can see the more the months, less the price, and you can always use this code KHATRILIVE to get 10% off. And once you are a subscriber, you can attend all these classes by different educators available on Unacademy. This is the YouTube and the Telegram channel of Unacademy where you will get all the information about all the upcoming courses, classes, and educators. And on that note, that's it from my side. Like, share, and subscribe. Anything, students? Anything which you want to ask before ending this class? Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the kind comments. That really means a lot. On that note, students, so it's time to say peace.